Encounter is brought to you by the Broome County Council of Churches, where we connect compassion with needs as we inspire growth with dignity. You'll find us in special places throughout the community. For those who remain hungry, we provide meals. For those who are challenged, we build wheelchair ramps. We comfort those who are ill, minister to those who are confined, and we remain an advocate for change and understanding on behalf of every element of our community. Connect and inspire. Encounter the Broome County Council of Churches.
Brothers and sisters, welcome to the Encounter program sponsored by the Broome County Council of Churches. I'm your host this morning, Mark Kimpland, the pastor at the Endwell United Methodist Church. This show launches a series of shows of welcoming new pastors to the area and to Broome County. The guest that we have today is no stranger to the Encounter program, but we bring him on today because he begins and has begun a new appointment as of June 1st as the new pastor at the Windsor First United Methodist Church. And it's my honor and privilege to introduce to you a very dear friend of mine, the Reverend Leon Jicha. Leon, welcome back.
Oh, great to be here again. Great to see you.
Thank you. Welcome back to the Encounter program, to the Endwell United Methodist Church. It's kind of like a homecoming here.
Yeah, it brings back a lot of memories.
I'm sure it does. Let's start here with our listeners and viewers, because I do want to go down memory lane a little bit, but look at the present and also the future. But can you share a little bit about Leon Jicha, a little bit of history for our viewers and listeners, maybe upbringing and such things, your place in this area and all of that to start us off, if you would.
Yeah, so I have a lot of ties to the areas. I was born and raised right here in the Binghamton area and lived on the east side of Binghamton for pretty much my whole life, and Conklin. And to my recent move, the last 3 years, I've lived in Windsor. So a lot of ties to the area. I've always been in the area. So then, in the area, I had my wife and 4 kids, including my newest addition, a 1-year-old Hunter, and who's in one stage. And my daughter's graduating this year from SB, and so she's going on to another stage of her life. And so I've been really blessed in this area and just know a ton of people. My wife always says, whenever we go somewhere, someone's always like, "Hey, Leon!"
Yes.
It's tough to go anywhere without somebody.
Yes, yeah.
Knowing me, because I've had a business in the area for 15 years, so that has led to that as well. So
that almost sounds like that you got a book in the process here with a 1-year-old and a graduating senior and everything in between. That's exciting, challenging, and all at the same time.
Yeah, going through different stages, from one to the other. It's very interesting.
Awesome, that's great. Let's move towards your call to ministry. Because as you know, we don't do this voluntarily. If we do, we need psychological help, I think. But what? Tell us a little bit about your call. What was placed in your heart to answer a call into doing what you are presently doing?
And so I always tell people I felt the call really early. So in my teens, I had taken a lay speaking class, an advanced lay speaking class through the Methodist Church, and I had done some sermons and filled in for the pastor, and I really loved it. And really young, my teens felt the call. But I told people I just didn't answer the phone. I just kind of let it ring, for a while. And at a point in my life, it came, what's stopping me now from answering the call now? When I really reflect on myself, there was nothing stopping me, from answering a call. I'd run out of excuses for answering the call. And so I picked up the phone, and I ended up at Davis College here locally, where I graduated 2 years ago with my bachelor's in religious education, and started, we began the process of, answering the call. While I was going to school, I spent 2 years as your youth pastor into our friendship, and then the last 2 years at Washington United Methodist Church.
One thing I think would be very interesting for me to hear again, or maybe once again, is your upbringing in the church. It wasn't in a specific church setting. Could you say a little bit about that? reflecting back now, where you are now, and how that might have melded or molded your faith or had your faith formation and such things. Can you say a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I grew up at Fairview United Methodist Church, and as I tell people, I don't know how I did it, but when I graduated, I got my 19-year perfect attendance pin. We went to church, even when out of town, went to visit my grandparents who lived outside of Albany. We went to Selkirk United Methodist Church anytime that we were out of town visiting them. It's just something that, was very important to my dad that my dad passed down to me. And it was really through my dad, my faith story where I accepted Christ was when I was 11. And we had an incident and where my dad had done something. It was winter and he was cold and he had worn his winter coat, and I had these new sneakers, and I felt bad that I had these new sneakers that were expensive. And instead of having cheaper sneakers and him having a coat to keep warm, I had expensive sneakers so I wouldn't get picked on at school. And he had, this coat that was more like a spring coat. And it was at that point that I really felt that connection to God. I understood the sacrifice of Christ on the cross. Up to that point, I really struggled to make that connection. Why does somebody do that for me? And that small sacrifice that I happened to notice from my dad helped me connect that sacrifice of Christ on the cross.
So the people of the Fairview United Methodist Church were instrumental then in forming your faith and taking you by the hand through all of that.
Yeah, there's just so many wonderful people that, Sunday school, and I love going back there and visiting and reminiscing with people when I can. And interesting enough, they're kind of our sister church where I'm at now at Windsor First United Methodist Church, so it's funny how things have worked out.
Yeah. That's one of the blessings that I've seen in ministry through the years is the longer you keep doing this, the more your mind goes back to those people who shaped you, especially as a child and youth, through your home church and such things. It's just, it's really uncanny how that kind of rears its head throughout the years of ministry. And it sounds like you've been blessed by that.
Absolutely.
No, that's awesome. So the last time we were here, I remember the topic and such things. You were serving as the youth pastor at the Endwell United Methodist Church, and we wanted to do a show about the importance of youth coming to faith, and how do you do that in the midst of these turbulent times. And little did we know 2 years later we would be right smack in the middle of turbulent times and in a pandemic and racial unrest that continues and such things. So tell us a little bit about the journey of the last 2 years, because you left here to take an appointment at the West Shenango United Methodist Church. Can you tell me a little bit about that experience? And that's baptism by fire. Here you are. Can you tell me a little bit about emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, what that experience was like?
Yeah, I think the big difference is, as a youth pastor here with you, you had a support group, so I had you, and Lynn and some other people here at the church that if I had questions or need anything, I had a helping hand. Also, I found myself, as the lead pastor at the church, now everybody's coming to you, and some, while you have a supervising pastor, sometimes if you can't get a hold of them right away or this and that, it's a little difficult, all of a sudden the pressure falls on, a little bit of a pressure, because you want to do the right thing by them, you want to help them grow and spiritually.
Yes.
And so, it's a little bit of pressure and you feel a little deer in headlights.
Yeah.
At sometimes because you're trying to get used to them, they're trying to get used to you, and so it can be a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. I'll go a little deeper on that one. Looking back on that, and you were there for
2 years.
2 years, okay. Looking back on that time of 2 years, I look back at my first appointment, and the same thing. Deer in the headlights. What am I doing here? Really? Kind of putting the pieces together and such things. What did you learn about your leadership style during that time? Did it expose something? Did it confirm something in you, or probably a little bit of both? That's what ministry does. What did you learn?
Well, one of the things I learned, and it was a little bit of, and I'm still working on it really.
Sure.
There's a little bit of patience. Having owned my own business for 15 years. If I wanted to do something, I just went ahead and did it. happened quickly. I didn't have to put a committee together. I didn't have to discuss it with anybody. I just kind of did it, And so not only do you have the aspect of trying to, have a committee and talk about it, but you have to get them on board with the idea. It's just not sharing the idea and communicating the idea, but getting them on board and backing the idea. So it's really a multi-phase progression that takes a little bit longer, and you need some patience for. So it definitely felt like God was working and worked on my patience there while I was with them.
Now, what did you learn about your leadership style that confirmed that, hey, all right, I got some of this, I can do this, that kind of was a confirmation that, hey, I've got this gift, I feel good, I think it's, it's bearing some fruit. What did you learn about yourself during that 2-year period there about confirming a gift or two?
Yeah, so I find myself that I'm a big, kind of a rah-rah cheerleader. You can do this. I kind of feel like my style is, I love you right where you are, but I don't want you to stay right there. I want to help you, move forward. And I'm kind of a ground floor guy. I walk with you. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'll walk with you and do it with you. And I think people really appreciate that grounding.
Yes.
Yeah. Being willing to walk alongside them with it and not just tell them what to do, but do it with them.
Yeah. Early on in my ministry, I had a mentor that asked me a question I'd like to ask you, because it blessed me when I went to the different appointments. And here was the question, and now that you are going and in a new appointment, and during the second week of this new appointment, the question was, Mark, every time you go to a new appointment, ask yourself, what is it that you're going to bring to this appointment? And what is it that you're not going to bring to this appointment? What is it that you're going to leave behind? Whether it be leadership style or lessons learned or whatever. So I'd like to throw that out to you and see where that takes us. Let's start first with what are you bringing to this appointment that maybe you didn't bring to the first one? Or even as the youth pastor here, just for obvious reasons, because of experience and all of that. So what now, maybe 2 years later, 3, 4 years later, do you bring to this appointment? Gladfully.
I think there's a confidence, having the experience of, being with yourself for 2 years as a youth pastor and having that experience 2 years as a lead pastor, a little confidence in what I can and can't do. So I'm more confident, and it's enabled me to, kind of let my guard down a little bit and be free to really be really excited and really hopeful for the appointment and what we're able to do in our community.
Right. Now the flip side, what aren't you going to bring that maybe you brought to either or both, whatever? What as you enter into this, what cognitively are you saying? I'm just not going to bring that this time. I'll do my best not to. What are...
Yeah, I think for me the biggest thing is just a little more openness to, not being so tunnel focused on, my plan, but listening to what others have. So they have great ideas to add, to it and really help it blossom into something better. So just, more heads and just really listening closely to what other people have to say and other ideas, and not be so focused on the goal, more focused on the journey to the goal.
Yeah, on the journey. That's profound, because you bring up an interesting point. I mean, being a business owner versus a pastor, those are two different worlds. Yes. Especially if you're in a church with little to no staff, you're always working with volunteers and collaboration and all that synergy and all of that. Sometimes it can be difficult. When you're the boss, not so much. There's a different dynamic there, So that's really neat. Let's talk about some differences about the two appointments. Starting here, this one here, in the one that you spent 2 years at West Genangle. What are the most glaring differences that you see so far between, or even similarities? What are some of the things that you see are similar or different?
I start with some of the differences. So Abbott West Genangle was a quarter-time appointment, little tiny church. I didn't even have an office out by the airport. Some programs, they were doing some things, but, with the number of people that we had, it made doing something bigger difficult. So reaching out, we, had to think a lot of small ideas, keep them small, and it was difficult doing some bigger things because we just didn't have enough, volunteers to be able to do some things that, at a bigger church now that you're able to do and are doing. So there's some difficulty in there with that. I did very little interaction with the congregation at quarter time. A lot of quarter time is almost pulpit supply. So you're just kind of doing your bulletin, you're preaching, very minimal meetings, minimal hospital visits because you have a smaller congregation.
Yes.
It's really, and going into it, if you had told me, I was like, all you get to do is study and read and preach, I was like, yes. Yeah. But as I, gone through the process and the longer I was there, I was finding something missing, and I knew I was just not having enough contact with the people of the church and being able to, help them in their journey as much as,
Yeah.
you can when you have a little more time and you have a little more invested into them.
Yeah. So really no matter what it's quarter time, half time, 3/4 time, it's full time, it's about relationships.
Yeah.
It's really about relationships. It's tough to do quarter time.
Yeah, it's really tough. It's hard to put into people.
Yeah.
And that's their biggest investment. Churches always, a lot of them talk about money, but people are your biggest investment.
Absolutely.
Your community is your biggest investment.
Yeah. And so here you are now in a new appointment. You're excited. I'm sure all the bags are unpacked and all that kind of stuff. But here you are. What's your first blush? What do you see as you step into this ministry? What excites you about it?
The first thing is, it's definitely there's a lot of people, and just for my first few meetings, I'm really excited. They seem to have a passion to want to grow. They have a passion for being involved in the community. The number of things that they do in the community really kind of surprised me. All the little things that they were involved in, and I'm really excited that I just live a mile from the church, so it's my community now as well. So I'm really excited about being a part of my community and moving along. Some of the things they do, they have a Windsor Churches United, which is really awesome. So Catholic, Presbyterian, Baptist, Methodist Church, we get together and we do some things together to do some work within the community. So there just seems to be this real push for them to be involved into the community and do some things in the community.
Yeah. And this may not be a real fair question, but I'll throw it out there anyway, just to see where we go with this thing. What do you see at first blush, the challenges? What are the challenges that you see? And I know you haven't been there long and probably haven't had time to really digest that, but is there anything right off the bat that you're saying, all right, maybe I need to go down this rabbit hole with them, hand in hand and tackle this issue? Have you got that far yet?
Yeah, I think they have an issue that probably most churches, Abbott Mushmanengo had that, and I think a lot of churches in the United Methodist and other churches in general have the issue. They're getting older. We're having struggles. You're drawn in my generation. Even I don't see myself young, but when I go to pastors' meetings, I feel like I'm a youngster.
Yes.
I'm a youngster. So just really getting that next generation beyond my parents' generation, my dad's generation, getting them involved and getting them into church, or back in the church.
Yes, yeah. Now, in the midst of this difficult times, this pandemic, and all of us have been forced to do things we never thought we would be doing and such. Can you tell us a little bit about your online services? I understand that you're streaming live on Sunday mornings and such things. Can you tell me a little bit about that process and when you're streaming, and you go ahead and plug your plug the services? Absolutely. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how our viewers and listeners might be able to tap into the services?
Yeah, so if you're interested in joining us, we do just a Facebook Live at 10 a.m. on Sunday service. I put everything on a screen, so all the words, everything. So I find people are trying to get them engaged as much with the service as possible. When you're on your computer or phone or tablet or whatever it is at your house, it can be easily distracting. So I try to throw out some questions that get them respond. and interact with each other during the service, and try to keep them involved with the screen and the words to the hymns, to try to stick to a little more popular hymns that people are enjoy, and keep their interest really locked in. So it's a little different, and that's different too, because it's been interesting switching on to that. I just started, so for a couple months I wasn't doing any services in between the churches. So all of a sudden, like, oh, you're doing an online service, which I've never done before.
Yeah.
So spent a little extra time the first week trying to figure out what I was doing on there, and I was really blessed to have a camera guy come down and work with me a little bit and try to iron out some issues before we.
It's a whole new medium. It really is. Friends, we have been blessed. I want to reintroduce our guest. I'm with the Reverend Jicha, who was the pastor of the Windsor First United Methodist Church, and just beginning that appointment in June and such. I share with many people that 75% of my day right now is things that I did not do on a regular basis 4 months ago, and it's a whole new. It's a totally different learning process right across the board. Are you comfortable in that process, or has it been more challenging than you thought? Or
there's something I realize there's some things I had to learn. So I'm really blessed. One of my best friends is an IT tech. So he lives in Syracuse, so we do a lot of things remotely. He helps me out a lot. So I'm really blessed with that. So I feel like I'm learning. My computer skills and my knowledge is growing with it, and I'm not afraid to learn some new things, or afraid to admit, like, I don't know what I'm doing, I need some help.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's really a blessing going forward too, because I know we've talked as a church, even at some point when we get back to in-person worship, to continue doing Facebook Live, because I think it's a great avenue to reach people. It's kind of non-threatening, it's not intimidating, so you kind of check something out, check a service out, in your community without, going and having that struggle of, I'm going to meet people and
walking into the door into an empty sanctuary or a full sanctuary, and where do I sit? And
where do I sit? I don't know anybody.
I can sit right here, right where I am.
Where I am at, so it gives them a little sneak peek of who you are and what you're doing.
Is there anything else you want to share with our listeners and our viewers about the Windsor First United Methodist Church that might be exciting to you, that might be ahead of you, or anything like that? I want to give you a chance to share whatever you want to say about the good folks out there. They do great work.
Yeah, they do. They have a jail ministry. They do some work just to, whenever there's a special event for holidays, always involved in some way in the community, handing out bracelets at Easter, invite people in, have a soup and salad, when we're meeting. Right now we're currently still involved in doing Essential, so we're serving 50 families in our community through God's Bread. So if there's anybody in the Windsor area that are struggling with food and groceries, please contact us, and we will arrange to get you, whether we deliver them to you or you stop at the church and grab a bag of groceries. So that's a really big program that we're still currently running through with everything.
Good. Let's we have about just a few minutes left here, about 4 minutes or so left. Let's broaden our scope a little bit. You've been in 3 different places, gaining experience and confidence and all of that, and your gifts will be used and they are needed, and I appreciate them. What's your prayer for the larger church? What do you hope? I mean, I shared this a few weeks ago. I'm a pastor in the Northeast, where we are hemorrhaging members in the Northeast of the United States. I'm doing it in the midst of a pandemic, in the middle of a denomination that's probably going to fracture. Oh yay, all of those things. What's your hope for the church? What do you see as our biggest challenges and such things as we move forward?
I'm going to say the first one is just, I think we realize that we're not alone in this world. the way we've been shut out from other people, we really, our struggle as a church is the same as the rest of the world, reaching out to people, and what we do affects others. And so we have to really, become involved in others. There's Philippians 2:4, let each of you not look to his own interest, but also to the interest of others. So yes, you take a look at yourself and you take care of yourself, but you have to go beyond yourself. I think that's what the church has to do. We have to go beyond ourselves and look at the interest of others as well, and really expand out into the world like we never have before.
And especially in a time such like this, in times such as these, we really have to do that, because push and shove, it's again about our relationship with God and our relationship with each other. I'm going to give you the last 30 or so seconds, Leon. Anything else you want to share with our viewers and listeners and such things?
Yeah, I'd say the big thing is get involved in your community. Volunteer. Look at churches. Churches are great sources. They do a lot of different things in the community. So even it's a great way to get to know members of the church in a non-intimidating factor. So you can get involved in their missions and help them reach out to others to see what they're doing and get to know them. But yet you're going beyond yourself and working in the community with each other for the betterment of the world.
Now, what's the best way for someone to get in touch with you or the Windsor First United Methodist Church, if someone listening or watching this wants to reach out to you and connect with you? What's the best way to do that?
Yes, we have our website, umcwindsorny.org. As a website, it has my email, the church's phone number, my phone number. If you don't want to talk to me, you want to talk to one of the other staff, their number's on there as well. Feel comfortable with somebody else, reach out to anybody. We'd be happy to get back to you and happy to serve you in any way we possibly can.
Awesome. Well, Leon, welcome back, welcome home, and all the best. God will use you in powerful ways. So, I'm so glad that God has put you where God has put you right now. So, friends, again, our guest has been the Reverend Leon Jicha, the brand new pastor at the Windsor First United Methodist Church. Keep him and his congregation in prayers. And brothers and sisters, during this time, stay in love with God and with one another. Have a great day.